All right, so let's get started here. If you couldn't hear, I was just giving a brief overview of the agenda, which is up here. The only important thing to reiterate is that we will be monitoring the Q&A session live. So if you do have questions throughout this session, want to see something demoed, have a question for me or a question for Michael, please let us know via the Q&A box in your GoToWebinar control panel. We'll be using those questions to monitor and drive the discussion today. All right, so real quick, we do have free access points for qualified IT professionals on today's call. Please check meraki.cisco.com/freeap for your eligibility, and please call us to confirm your shipping information. We want to make sure we send out free access points to the correct address. So there should be information about who to call in one of the reminder emails about today's session. If you're having trouble finding that email, feel free to just give us a call or type in that question to the Q&A box as well. All right, so really quickly, brief introduction. Cisco Meraki, we make 100% cloud-managed networking equipment. This is really cool. This basically means anywhere in the world you have internet, from any internet-accessible device, you can open up a web browser, access all of your networks, see all of your Meraki equipment wherever in the world it happens to live, drill down into it, get information about clients, bandwidth consumption, applications being consumed, et cetera, et cetera. Now, we are part of Cisco. Cisco did acquire us at the end of 2012, so we're the cloud networking group within Cisco. And I just want to highlight that Cisco is committed to all of our product lines. So they bought us when we had 4 product lines, which you see here on your screen today: wireless, security, switching, and mobile device management. And we're continuing research and development across all 4 of those product lines. So we are just plowing full steam ahead, and we're seeing spectacular growth, well over 100% year-to-year annual growth. So we are one of, if not the fastest growing BUs within Cisco. And the way the Meraki paradigm works is the Meraki equipment will sit on-premise. So at your offices, your remote locations, your homes, if we're talking about a teleworker deployment scenario. And what you do is you manage that equipment from the cloud. So again, by opening up that web-based dashboard and managing and monitoring your equipment. Now, the Meraki equipment will initiate a secure connection back to our cloud. And so by cloud, I mean our data centers that are hosted all over the world. And that connection is small and it's secure. It's small. It averages about 1 kilobit per second per device. That's because we use an out-of-band control plane. So we don't see or store end-user data that goes wherever it was intended to go. But we are collecting the management and the monitoring statistics we need to present the information that you're going to see in the demo. Now, there's benefits to this architecture. Security obviously is one. So again, we use that out-of-band control plane. But our data centers are SSIDs certified. They undergo daily penetration testing by McAfee. We are PCI level 1 compliant. We have customers that have built HIPAA and PCI compliant networks using our gear. And we have high availability and redundancy built right into that back end. So that's one of the key features of the cloud architecture. Another one is scalability. So if you find yourself needing to grow rapidly or perhaps reduce your network deployment rapidly, it's very easy for us to accommodate that because we don't need you to buy controllers or redundant controllers. There's no concept of device limits. You can literally have thousands or 10,000 or more pieces of Meraki equipment on a single network. So this is just kind of going through and I think reiterating that. I'm just going to briefly go through this slide since we talked about those topics just now. But what I really want to do is now introduce Michael from Cohen Company. And what we're going to do, again, is just have a fireside chat. He hasn't heard any of the questions I'm about to pepper him with. But really what we want to do is have you guys drive the discussion. So please type in all of your questions for me or Michael in the GoToWebinar Q&A box, and we will monitor those and use those to guide the discussion. So Michael, I was wondering if you could just introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your role and a little bit about Cohen Company. And we may have lost Michael. Michael, if you're muted, please unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, there you are.
There we go. All right, so my name is Michael Tylicki. I'm the IT infrastructure manager here at Cohen Company. We're a regional accounting firm headquartered out of Cleveland, Ohio. And then we've got several offices throughout Ohio and then the Midwest, so Youngstown and Akron, Ohio, as well as Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And then another office down in Tampa, Florida. I'm one of 7 on the IT team. We've got a CIO, and then there's 3 other individuals that work on infrastructure and help desk with me, and then we've got a couple in-house developers as well.
Okay, great. So one of the things I always like to ask, is what were the challenges you were facing that prompted your search for new network architecture, and how did you evaluate those solutions?
Sure. So the thing that led us down this path was we had an aging controller-based wireless environment that was end of life, end of support. So we were looking for a new wireless solution, and we attended a Cisco Tech Day locally and heard about Meraki and started diving into if it was a possible solution for us to replace our current wireless system in our offices. Through that evaluation, in all actuality, we ended up taking a look at their firewall solution as well, the MX line, and that's actually where we started our implementation with the firewalls and then moved to wireless. But we were looking for things such as increasing our uptime for our wireless network, increasing the uptime of our WAN solution. We've got an MPLS between our offices that wasn't the best solution and had some flakiness to it. So we were looking for some ways to improve that stability and uptime. We were looking for things such as intrusion detection, which we were starting to evaluate as another piece in the puzzle. And then some of the things that we kind of got as we were looking around in the Meraki solution were things like the content management. And really the biggest thing that we like is the single pane of glass to look in, and we can see all of our sites, whether it be the MX firewalls, the MR access points, our laptops and systems manager and whatnot, so we can get in there and see all of that from one dashboard.
Okay, fantastic. And one other thing that I always just like to ask is that when you were going through and you were looking at all of your solutions, was there anything initially that worried you about the Meraki solution that then taking an evaluation or deploying the equipment helped alleviate?
As with, I think everyone with cloud, it was kind of, okay, so if we don't have the controller on base, are we going to have issues if, is the cloud solution going to go down? Are we going to lose connection to the dashboard? What type of resiliency has Meraki put into place to prevent that type of event from happening? And up until this point, I'm glad to say we've not had an issue with being able to hit the dashboard at any point in time in order to configure and take a look at our devices.
Okay, great. And for those of you who are on the call who may not know, one of the things that we have is basically if you were to lose WAN connectivity to the internet, your network will continue to operate with its last known configuration. So in theory, right, your SSIDs are still going to be broadcasting. If you're authenticating to local authentication services for file and print, that will still be in play, but of course you can't open up a web browser and tweak the dashboard, and that's usually okay because you're usually trying to troubleshoot with your ISP to get your connection back up. But if you accidentally misconfigured any settings, we do have ways to get into the equipment, which I'm happy to show you if you guys want to see it later, but ways to get into the equipment and tweak just enough settings to get yourself out of hot water. Okay, thank you, Michael. One of the things that I noticed when you were talking about the security appliances and what you've deployed in your network is you're using almost our entire product line of MXs, which is awesome. So I just want to hear about your experience with that. How was your deployment? How long did that take? What finally got you to pull the trigger on the MX?
Sure. So we started off with a pair of MX80s to demo with and play with between a secondary link in our HQ office as well as one of our remote sites. And we kind of used those devices to help us, A, play around with and see what the configurations were available to us, and B, also kind of size what devices we needed for our other offices. So some of our sites are as small as 5 or 6 users, and some of them are as large as 130, 160 users. So, and then all of them are pointing at our data center for all their services. So all those users we needed a device in order to support that at the data center. So once we had tested the functionality of building the VPN tunnels between the MX devices, as well as some of the configuration for intrusion detection and the firewall rules, we went from there and started deploying into other sites in pretty rapid succession. I'd say within a matter of a week, we had rolled out to all of our sites the corresponding devices once we had ordered them for those sites.
Mm-hmm.
And then one of the great things about it is 2 of our sites are pretty far away from where all of our IT staff is, the Milwaukee and Tampa sites. So in those sites, we went in the dashboard, configured what the settings were going to be on that device, shipped the device down to them, and basically had someone who has no real IT knowledge pull it out of the box, plug it in, and connect it, and it went ahead and pulled its configuration down from the cloud.
Cool.
And the site was up and running within 15, 20 minutes.
Okay, awesome. Awesome. So we are getting a couple of great questions in from the audience. So I want to take a moment to address some of them. One question for you, Michael: are you guys using voice over IP?
Yes, we
through
are.
the Meraki equipment? How is your experience with that?
We've not had any issues. So we're a Cisco VoIP solution here. So call manager through and through with Cisco VoIP phones as endpoints. We did not notice any degrading quality of audio issues when we moved from our previous solution over to the Meraki solution.
Okay, great. There's a couple questions here too that I can field. One of them is there a mobile version of the dashboard? And the answer is yes, we do have a mobile app. The follow-up question to that was, is it as full function as the web dashboard? Not at this time, no. We're building out functionality, but it does offer a fantastic way for monitoring your network and making basic changes from your mobile phone for iOS or Android devices, if that does appeal to you. I would check it out. It's completely free, so you can go find it either on the Apple Store or Google Marketplace and download those. There is a question too, which is, what is the maximum user count for the MX80? That's a great question. We have sizing guides and documentation about that up on our website. So I would definitely check that. I don't have the user count off the top of my head, but it's probably somewhere between around 100 to 500 users, depending on the type of traffic being used and the type of connections. But that's where the sizing guide will really, really help you. If you go to meraki.cisco.com/library, we have a bunch of documents up there. You can definitely find the sizing guide if you Google for it as well, and that will actually show you different scenarios with different types of traffic broken out across all of our models. So I would definitely check that out. We had a question, which is, do you pre-configure your devices in the dashboard before they arrive? The answer is you can, definitely. Let's see. All right, so there's a bunch more coming in, but let's move along. I just want to get to this slide while I've got you on the call, Michael. So the MX, you got a bunch of them deployed. I was wondering if you could walk us through some of the bullets on this slide and just tell us how you've deployed the MX, what are the features that are most useful to you. I know for sure you guys are using the sort of automatic failover from MPLS. I was just wondering if you could touch on those and explain how you've got those configured.
So that first bullet point is the integrated source fire engine for intrusion detection and prevention. So prior to the Meraki rollout, we had started to evaluate source fire and other solutions out there to kind of do some intrusion detection with packet sniffers and whatnot. Little manual for our process and what we've got available to us. So the integration with SourceFire right into the MX box has been a great thing and given us some new visualization into what's going on. So we review those quite periodically to see if there's something going on, or it has helped us, as an example, to identify a couple users that had a virus that the AV program did not pick up. So we were able to see that the SourceFire engine was actually blocking that connection as the virus was trying to phone home. So that was great. Content filtering. So that one we use primarily normal stuff, making sure adult content's not available on the network, and things of that nature. Traffic shaping has been a great thing for us. In today's age of streaming audio and video services, that most of our internal applications and applications that we use are web-based. So if someone's streaming something and taking all the bandwidth, it severely affects our network performance. So now we've been able to go in there and say, YouTube's only allowed to use this amount of bandwidth per user, and so forth, to make sure that most of our bandwidth is reserved for the business applications. And then the last thing looks like it's on there for you guys is the auto VPN failover feature. So this is one of the main selling points for us, and one of the great features that we've enjoyed is that we do have a primary MPLS connection through a telco between offices that's on a fiber-based network. That, hey, we've had issues in the past with a previous vendor, not the current one, but if that network goes down, how do our sites communicate back and forth to each other, especially since we're on a VoIP solution, A, and B, that everything's been centralized in the data center. And this auto VPN failover feature allows us to, if that MPLS connection goes down, there's a tunnel that's built across the internet between the MXs that is then activated. And it's seamless, fast. Users do not notice when that has happened. Calls on our VoIP phones do not drop, which is another bonus. We may lose audio for 2 seconds, but the call never does drop, which is a big bonus because our people are on the phone almost all day long. So, and that configuration is maybe 4 or 5 clicks in the dashboard, and it's very easy to set up and configure and also monitor.
Right. Awesome. Okay, fantastic. And we are getting a ton of questions, so this is good. Let me just see if I can answer a couple of them. Someone is asking whether or not the MX supports failover and whether that is then active-passive or active-active. We do also support warm spare failover in the MX, and it is active-passive. So you do need 2 MXs deployed, but you would not need a license for that second MX. And we can talk more about licensing. We're getting some questions about the difference in licensing and how does licensing work for the MX, and we can get to that when we a little bit later in the presentation. Let's see if there's any additional questions popping out for me for you, Michael. Are you using client VPN at all?
No, not at this point.
Okay. All right. So for those of you on the call, we do support client VPN. We use L2TP IPsec. So basically, it's built into most modern operating systems today. You don't need a separate client to access client VPN. And at this time, we do not support Cisco AnyConnect. But we've been getting a lot of requests about that. So we are in discussions and considering that. Okay. So let's actually pivot briefly and let's talk about wireless very quickly. We were getting some questions for you, Michael, about the wireless. Things like what model APs are you using? How many access points do you typically see for, or how many clients, I guess, is a typical question, are you seeing in your network per access point?
Okay, sure. So currently we're using MR18s across the board in all of our sites. Most of our users are hardwired in, so we probably have a higher amount of clients on wireless per access point since it's not their primary connection. In our larger offices, so the 100 user offices to 150 user offices, there's anywhere between 5 to 8 access points based on location in the office. spreading the signal. And then in our smaller offices, there's generally 2 to 3 access points inside the offices.
Great.
And those smaller offices are, like I said, are between 5 to 20 users.
Okay, fantastic. And then it looks like, just to kind of highlight what you've got going on the slide, it looks like you've got separate SSIDs with different types of access. Do you want to just talk briefly about how you've deployed the wireless? Yep.
So we've got 2 basic SSIDs that we use. We've got an internal staff SSID that's using 802.1x radius authentication based on user and computer account. And then we also have a second SSID for guest access when we've got clients or vendors that are coming in. That SSID is available based on time of day, so it's only available during business hours to begin with. There's this customized splash page that users will land on saying that, hey, this is Cohen Company's guest wireless. Thank you for visiting us, and let us know if you've got any questions, that type of stuff, which has actually been a lot easier process for us than in the past. In the past, guests or vendors had to have whoever they were meeting with internally track down either a member of IT or a member of the reception or support staff to get a custom user account created for that user and whatnot. So it's made that process a lot more streamlined for our guests when they're here.
Okay. And so I want to kind of move us along because I want to get to the demo. I think I'm looking at a lot of questions that I think might be answered by the demo. So I believe we just have 1 or 2 more slides to wrap up here before we get to that. I was wondering if you could just talk a little bit about sort of the teleworker deployments that you've got going on. And the Z1s, for those of you who aren't familiar, they're not technically an MX security appliance. They're our teleworker gateway device. They do support the site-to-site IPsec VPN. It's sort of our version of kind of Cisco's DMVPN, which is sort of an automatic, easy way to configure and set up basically site-to-site VPN, IPsec. But they also have dual band wireless, basically, and they are sort of a little small device that you can deploy at home. So Michael, I was wondering if you could just share with folks how you're using that and perhaps Systems Manager, and we're almost ready for the demo.
Sure. So on the Z1s, we've got 2 uses that we use them for. One is that we have a handful of employees that work from home 80 to 100% of the time that were in the past using a local VPN client on their PC to get in and whatnot to the network. They had to make sure they got on VPN and they were in range of their wireless at home and whatnot. So we've sent Z1s out to those folks now, and once again, it's just like the rest of the equipment. We configure it in the cloud. They plug it in. It pulls down the settings. One of the nice things is that you can clone the SSID that you use on the MR access points over to the Z1s. So those users, their computers are already configured through group policy to connect to that SSID. They connect to it, and it's just like they're sitting here in the office. The user doesn't have to remember a VPN anymore. They've got the same experience as they were sitting here in the office. We're able to send them physical phones if they want to, since there are a couple LAN ports that are on that Z1 device. So some of our users are excited about having a physical phone again instead of just a headset and a soft phone. And then the other use that we use those Z1s for is we've got auditors who go out to clients for financial audits and things of that nature. So generally, they travel in groups of anywhere from 2 to 10 auditors at a time. So now instead of all of them having to get on VPN or whatever, we can send them out with this one device, and as long as the client will provide us a hardwired network connection, once again, they can pop it in there, and then the SSID for our internal wireless comes up. All the traffic's encrypted from their laptops straight back to our network, and there's not really any configuration those users have to worry about. It also has helped us troubleshoot if the client has some firewall rules that are blocking our VPN client, because the Meraki Z1 in the dashboard actually reports that type of information for us. So we're actually able to pinpoint and let them know, hey, you need to go talk to the client's IT staff because they're blocking that stuff for you.
Okay, fantastic. Is there anything else, if you had to say 1 or 2 things to folks who might be evaluating Meraki equipment, sort of what to keep in mind, or top selling points for you, or things that you think would be helpful? What would those be?
our biggest thing was the ease of configuration. So everything for smaller staffs instead of we come from an entire Cisco environment here, so knowing all the commands and whatnot to someone who's in it all day every day is fine. But those of you who are spread a little bit thin and are jacks of all trades, this kind of helps because it's point and click for a lot of stuff, and it's very easy to troubleshoot on your own, or even if you have to call support. So I do want to touch on that real quick. So support, just for those of you who are wondering, has been great for us. It's on the level of Cisco TAC. We've not had an issue where they can figure it out or they haven't gotten back to us in a very timely manner.
Mm-hmm. Good. Yeah, we get a lot of accolades on our support team, so that's really great to hear you say that. So let's see. We are getting a couple of questions I think will be answered with the demo, like I said. One of them I can go ahead and answer is people are asking if you are authenticating in the cloud. Well, I guess you can answer. Are you doing user authentication in the cloud? Or are you using authentication via some sort of on-site Radius or Active Directory server?
It's an on-site Radius server, Active Directory.
Yes. So you'll see in the demo, folks, when you're actually going in and configuring authentication, basically there's a place where you can input the credentials for your server, and that's what the devices use. Basically go in and ping those servers for authentication. Okay, so we're almost done. This is the last slide before the demo. Real quick, Michael, what are your future plans vis-a-vis Meraki?
So one of the things that we're looking at is the further use and functionality in the access points that are out there. So one of the things is Air Marshal, which is the intrusion detection prevention system for the wireless access points, is one of our big things for this year. And then our second thing is evaluating the MS switch line. So we've got a bunch of switches that are coming out of life, out of support. So those are probably the two biggest things that we're looking at for the next 12 months.
All right, fantastic. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to just say, as we go through the demo, if there's anything that you want to highlight or anything in particular that's intriguing to you that you think folks might be appreciative of, let us know. Just feel free to interrupt. But what I want to do right now is actually just take people through and show Cohen Company's network. So I'm assuming many of you have probably seen a Meraki dashboard demo. If you haven't, we have some great webinars that can walk you through the basics. Since we're getting a little low on time, I'm going to skip through most of it. I'm just going to say again, you can see very quickly that Michael has a distributed network, and you can see everywhere in the world he's got devices deployed, and he could click down into any single one of these, drill down and see where his gear is deployed, or come in and get sort of an overview where he has things deployed, what are the sort of uptime statistics for a given network for the last week, get aggregate usage statistics and sort his networks perhaps by usage or by clients. And you can dive right down into any particular network. So we're going to take a look at one of the MXs here. What we've drilled down into is actually this summary report, which is a really cool feature for our MXs. Lets you kind of get aggregate statistics over a given time frame. You can actually sort of sort the devices by tag, even if you've tagged your networks, or slice and dice, or switch around between MXs to get this information. But basically, lets you see trends in usage over time that might be useful to you. But one of the things to note is that when you drill down into a network, and you have an MX that's deployed, let's say, at your perimeter, you have visibility, like I was saying earlier. You do have visibility into sort of bandwidth statistics, usage statistics, client statistics. And so what you can do is you can really, especially if you're in sort of a BYOD environment, very easily come in and sort of see, okay, so do I have any Windows devices? No. Okay. Do I have any, let's see, like VMware devices? Are any of them online right now? Yes. You can kind of drill down and see sorting by the operating system, sorting by manufacturer, IP address, MAC address, the description of the device. And so you can see right away, just by typing in, VMware and who's online right now, we went down from almost 3,000 devices down to 37. and we're getting statistics on them, and here they all are. They're listed here. So very useful. We call that client device fingerprinting, and we do application fingerprinting as well, so you can actually come in and see where your bandwidth is going, come in and actually, you know, check out any of these applications. You know, maybe if we wanted to check out miscellaneous web, we could drill down into that application, and once this loads, you'll see, you get a little bit more information about the application, who the top consumers are, and even which websites and destinations they're going to. And so if these were, say, clients on a branch network, it might be useful to know who's spending the most time where, because you can go and make policy decisions on that. You can actually go in and create group policies around that, or drill down into any particular client device and add a policy. So you see he's got one here that says block YouTube, and essentially you can come in. You can set layer 3 firewall rules if you'd like, but because we have that deep visibility into applications, it's very easy to come in and just, you know, add a firewall rule for something, you know, or select a particular application that you might want to be blocking, and apply it that way. And if you don't want to actually outright block an application, you want to prioritize it or throttle it in some way, that's what traffic shaping is for. So it's very easy to come in and say, you know, actually, well, I don't know, maybe you know, maybe it's Netflix and you know, House of Cards and Hulu and a few other things that are giving me grief. What you can do is very simply choose a client limit and drop that bandwidth down. So like at this point, you know, the block YouTube policy is what it's called, but people would be blocked from using Google Video, blocked from YouTube, and their Netflix, Hulu, and I guess we've already blocked Google Video, but Netflix and Hulu would be throttled to 500 kilobits per second for any user or groups of users or devices or groups of devices that get this policy. And you could prioritize these applications instead just by ignoring limits and bumping that up. So it's very, very easy to set up group policies. It's also very, very easy, I just want to show you, to go in and monitor not only the clients and the applications and sort of creating policies for those to control them, but it's also very easy to monitor the device itself. So if you actually want to go in and get statistics on your MX, you can see it here, live port panel views, information about uptime, and then here's the live tool section. So if you need to sort of ping the device or check throughput, you can do that. And all of our network support packet capture. So if you actually want to go in and run a packet capture from the dashboard, either saving a file, a PCAP file for Wireshark, or streaming it to CloudShark, you can do that for troubleshooting purposes as well. So that's just a very, very, very quick overview of sort of the MX and how you would go in and check on its status and whatnot. What I want to do is actually talk about some of the features that we've been discussing. So the first one that I want to highlight is the site-to-site VPN. So this is very, very easy to set up, very cool. So you go to your first MX security appliance. All you do is decide if you want a split or full tunnel VPN. And then all you have to decide is whether you want a mesh or a hub and spoke topology for that VPN. Once you've selected this, the cloud and the MX work together behind the scenes to broker phase 1, phase 2, authentication and encryption. We use 128-bit AES encryption for these links. My understanding is that there's a separate key for every connection in a VPN topology, and that key refreshes every 8 hours. So it's an incredibly secure deployment of site-to-site IPsec VPN. Literally the only other step you would have to take at this point is just deciding which of the subnets we've identified do you want to export over VPN. So that's sort of a yes, no decision. Once that's up and running, you go to the next MX, you do the same 3 clicks, you're good to go. And you can actually come in and monitor your VPN status from the VPN status page. Now, I'm going to do something a little bit unprecedented, but I've gotten clearance from our product manager that I can do this. I want to explain to you, this is the page today, but we are actually on the cusp of deploying a new page. It is live. It's in beta, so you can actually go in and play with it. It's not live production yet, but it's really cool. And what you can do is go in. Actually, let me just open up a new tab here on Demo Networks and show you what it looks like. So these are networks that folks have agreed to let us demo. So I'm going to find one that actually has great site-to-site VPN. And I want to show you what's just around the corner and what's coming. So let me actually do this. So again, I've gotten to show you guys this, but this is what the new VPN status page is going to look like. So once you've configured your site-to-site VPN, it's going to be pretty cool. You're going to be able to come in here and see usage statistics, again, for a given time frame, but we're also going to be getting latency and loss statistics, too, for given connections. And you're going to be able to see sort of a map view of all of your VPN connections, or you can look at this really cool ring view, which is basically showing you all of your MXs and showing you the number of connections between those MXs. So you can see your heavily used VPN links right away. You can actually scroll down, and if you want to click on a given connection, let's pick this one, you're going to be able to see immediately for that connection all of the peers it's connected to, which subnets it's exporting. If you're connected to non-Meraki peers, those will pop up here as well. And then again, sort of health and connectivity status per VPN connection. So we're trying to give you a lot of really awesome visibility into this and help you sort of understand how your topology is operating, how much latency and loss you may be experiencing on a per connection basis. So that's coming very, very, very soon. That was a sneak peek. What it looks like today is what you see here. Same kind of idea, which is here's the health and connectivity of your VPN. Here's all the different VPN peers in the network, and we're getting sort of status based on near real-time heartbeat pings that we send out every 10 seconds for the VPN. Other things to discuss, because we've had some questions on it, are things like intrusion prevention and detection and content filtering. So all of our MXs support the ability to have content filtering, intrusion prevention, anti-malware, anti-phishing services deployed. There was a question earlier about licensing. So for site-to-site VPN, for client visibility, to deploy client VPN or group policies or traffic shaping, any of that stuff, you can get by with our sort of standard enterprise license. If you want these advanced security features, the intrusion prevention, content filtering, and anti-malware, anti-phishing, you do need to buy our advanced security license for these. We are partnering a little bit with third-party firms. So we use Kaspersky, SafeStream for the malware detection. We are integrating with SourceFire, which is, if you guys are keeping tabs, is Cisco now as well for intrusion prevention. But we also use Webroot Bright Cloud for our content filtering. So we can talk about each of these. Basically, I want to highlight intrusion prevention. So SourceFire, if you don't know, is the market leader in intrusion prevention as rated by Gartner and several other industry analysts. So we're integrating here. What we're doing, we're trying to make it as foolproof as possible to get up to speed on locking down and securing your network. So basically, all you have to do is enable intrusion prevention and select a rule set. Basically, this is how you're optimizing your location. Are you optimizing for connectivity? Are you optimizing for security? Somewhere in between. Now, this is the best practices advocated by SourceFire. And what this does is we check every day with SourceFire against these templates to see whether or not there are any newfound vulnerabilities or hacks that have been added to the rule set here for a given security level. So SourceFire behind the scenes is keeping track of all the bad things out there and kind of constantly updating and pruning the list of things that your MX security appliance needs to be aware of, again, based on your rule set. Now, once you've deployed this, it's really, really easy to go in and actually monitor it. You can go in and monitor the security for a given site or even organization-wide if you'd like. Let's just see, there may be nothing here. I could probably demo this on another network. All right, so if we look for the last month, we can actually see high security threats, medium security threats. We can look at them by signature. Maybe there's one particular threat that's really causing us grief, or perhaps one particular network or one particular client even that seems troublesome. And so you can sort by destination or source. What you can do is scroll down and very quickly see what the intrusion prevention saw, whether it was blocked or allowed based on your security settings. And if you click on the signature, we'll actually show you where you can go get a little bit more information about it. We want to make sure that you're up to speed and up to date and have information accessible to you so that you understand what's happening on your network. So that's intrusion prevention in a really quick nutshell. The only other thing that I want to highlight very quickly is content filtering, because we got a lot of questions about that. So again, we partner with Webroot BrightCloud. And similar to how we operate with SourceFire, basically they are keeping tabs on all the millions and billions of URLs out there and categorizing them for us. So every day they're keeping their lists up to date and current. All you have to do is choose between the 70 or 75 or so categories of content that you might want to exclude and prevent coming into your network. And you can optimize this. You can say, you know what, we're going to cache the top million or so sites in each category, or we're actually going to do a full cloud lookup of those sites. So sort of, you know, if you're worried about millions of URLs versus billions of URLs, you can sort of tweak that there. And then you can actually really drill down. You know, if you want to prevent sports.yahoo.com from showing up but allow the rest of yahoo.com, you can do things like that using the URL patterns and whitelist boxes here. Now, these are setting site-wide content filtering rules at this point. With the group policies, you can append to or override this. So if you want to I don't know, provide more strict content filtering for students than teachers, you can do things like that using group policies. So we've covered content filtering, we've covered site-to-site VPN. I just want to show you very quickly when we're talking about how to configure the automatic failover, or at least speak about automatic failover. There's a couple things to note. So the MXs, every MX supports dual WAN uplinks. By default, the second uplink is in a failover mode, so it will immediately fail over that second uplink if the first one goes offline for some reason, but you can use both uplinks simultaneously. You can portion out different traffic to them if you'd like, but a second layer of redundancy is the fact that MXs all support cellular uplinks, so 3G, 4G uplinks as well. So you could fail over to cellular even if both WAN uplinks go down. There's the warm spare failover that I mentioned before. We use VRRP for that. So you do need to deploy two MXs, but that's for device redundancy. And then there is this concept I think that Michael was talking about earlier, the MPLS to VPN failover is one really cool thing. And the way that we deploy that is very, very simple. You know, if you imagine having MXs deployed at your headquarters, connected to maybe a layer 3 switch for that MPLS route, you can set a static route out to the MPLS network. Out to, say, a branch location that's also hosting an MX. And one of the ways that we set this up is basically, you know, if you're adding a static route, what you can do is say, you know what, this might be the name out to your MPLS network, this might be the subnet out to your MPLS network, here's the next hop that it should be looking for. And what you can do is say, all right, this link is always going to be tried first if, either always or if the next hop responds to a ping or some particular host within that MPLS subnet responds to a ping. Now, if it's in your VPN, you can say yes or no, but basically what will happen is you always try this route if that route is active, if you've defined active in one of these ways. If that link is suddenly not active, assuming that you have site-to-site VPN configured between your headquarter and your branch MXs, will automatically fail over. So that's how easy it is to get that set up and running. So super, super easy. So we're getting a little bit low on time. I'm going to just switch back over to the presentation, and I want to just see if we have any other additional questions for you guys. I think since we had a little bit of a snafu earlier, I'm just going to halt on the slides, and we'll spend the rest of the time with questions. So let me see what we've got. So what kind of radius? So we support 802.1x radius for authentication. We also support Active Directory. It's very, very easy to configure both of these. Essentially, if you want to go in and configure Active Directory, and this is sort of similar in approach to 802.1x. Essentially, what you do is you go and you type in your Active Directory service information, and then if you need to add group policies, right, you can actually say maybe apply that YouTube policy to two different groups in Active Directory. Another thing that you can do is if you have enabled splash pages, which I don't see here, if you have enabled splash pages, basically what you can do is also authenticate via splash page. So you can actually, that's sort of a per VLAN thing with the MX, but you can basically authenticate using 802.1x from the splash page, possibly even LDAP, I think, and then, of course, you can have Active Directory here. So those are sort of the ways that you would go in and authenticate. That's a great question. Let's see. And do we have a cloud-based authentication service? Yes, we do. When you're going in and you're configuring authentication, it's called Meraki authentication, but we really don't advise folks using that. I think it's probably a better practice to deploy your own authentication services on site. Michael, for you, question about, are you using Meraki mobile device management, and for what sorts of devices, if so?
So yes, we are. Twofold. We're using it on our Windows-based laptops and servers to kind of get inventory and software inventory information. And then second off, we are using it for all of our iOS devices, so iPhones and iPads, to make sure that we've got remote wipe functionality. People are using passkeys to get onto their phones and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Some follow-up questions about VPN. So just to reconfirm, all MXs support site-to-site IPsec VPN. It's native. It's built into the MX. We call it Auto VPN. That's what I was demoing for you earlier. It takes 3 seconds to set up. We also support client VPN using L2TP IPsec, which is built into most modern operating systems. We do not at this time support AnyConnect, but again, we do support site-to-site IPsec VPN, and if you have a non-Meraki peer, some sort of other device or firewall that supports your standard IPsec site-to-site VPN, those can form site-to-site IPsec VPN connections with the MX. There's a couple of additional steps that you have to set up, but it's all there in the dashboard, and it's still fairly simple to do. But yes, we do support VPN with non-Meraki peers. We have a question of, can we show the network topology diagram? So yeah, that's a great question. So one of the things that we have in our latest and greatest versions of our firmware, and actually I think probably maybe the best network to show you just because it's pretty fun, is the Meraki network for this. So we have network topology built right into our dashboard. There's nothing that you need to deploy. It does help if you have switches, because the switches enable the sort of global view, but all pieces of Meraki equipment have the ability to kind of see the next hop and see what's there. So this is actually just automatically generated network topology for your Meraki devices. And it works out really well. So you can see Godzilla is our MX400. This is the security appliance we use, and you can see our switches. You can see that we have most of our switches go out to access points that are servicing different clients. And we can see non-Meraki equipment depending on what sorts of things they're advertising via LLDP or CDP, and if they're one hop away from a Meraki device. But basically, it's just a really nice, clean view of your network. You can actually go in and see very quickly if there's any alerts on devices or any issues. And if you hover over links, you get aggregate statistics from the last day about the number of clients and the usage that went by, and so you can see what are your most heavily used links and what ports are being used for that. So that's network topology. Do we support SSL clientless VPN? No, not at this time. Is there content filtering built in on the switch? No. Can you set safe search on Google for schools? Yes, you can. We do. All of our MXs support integrated YouTube for schools functionality as well as safe search for Google. I believe it's Google, yep. Possibly Yahoo and Bing too. I'd have to double check on that. Are we FIPS compliant? The answer is no, not at this time. We are not FIPS compliant. Does mobile device management include Android? Yes. iOS, Androids, Macs, and PCs. Are software updates automatic? Do you get to choose an update or not? So we do seamlessly push updates to your gear. You never ever need to manually download or install any updates. So this is everything from the firmware updates and the feature updates that we push out, but also just updates on identifying applications and identifying new types of equipment. So like if iOS 8, right? Maybe you want to find iOS 8 devices, things like that. We push out seamlessly behind the scenes. You can opt out of an update at any time, and you can schedule them, and you can break out that schedule based on product line as well. And actually, that's a great segue into how our paradigm works. So basically, the way the Meraki pricing works and the model is that you buy the hardware, and then you buy a license to operate that hardware. And the license will include all of your technical support, all access to cloud management functionality for either your enterprise or your advanced security license, and then all the new features and firmware updates that we push out to you guys. Okay, we're at the top of the hour. I apologize we weren't able to get to more questions. There were about 600 of you on the call today and only 2 people answering questions, but we have captured all of them. We're forwarding out all of your questions to your reps. So when you call to confirm your shipping information for your free access point, they should have that list of questions handy and available to them. But hopefully this was useful and interesting to you. Thank you so much, Michael, for agreeing to participate and letting us demo your network. Hope everyone has a great rest of their day, and I hope to see you again soon at a future session. We will be sending out the recording of this webinar to all of you, so you will have a copy of it. Thank you so much, guys.